Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX.com. We're a full service CX and UX agency, and welcome to episode 104. I couldn't decide what to call this one. I was calling it How the Sausage is Made and all of that, but now I'm calling it Inside Stories of UX Bootcamps. Just a quick reminder before we bring in our guest, we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch. I highly recommend joining us on Twitch. The delay is less than 7 seconds, so we'll get your comments and questions faster, and there's lots of fun features there, like press exclamation point giveaway or exclamation point ticket to be entered in this month's giveaway, which is a free ticket to the BAD conference, Behavior and Design. They were nice enough to donate a ticket to me personally, and I said, no, let's give it to the low ego action heroes. So I hope I'll see you over on Twitch. Please also consider subscribing on Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, it's free. If you do not have Amazon Prime, it's not free, but all of the money goes to the Deb Eats Delicious Cheese Fund. So I'm grateful for anything that people can give since I've turned off all the ads. Great. We've got people already joining. So let's bring in our guest so she can tell us her amazingness. So Julia, welcome. Julia DeBari, please spell your name. And I realized I forgot to turn on some of my lights. Spell your name and tell everybody how fantastic you are.
Thank you so much, Debbie, for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'm very excited to share what I know with everyone.
Me too.
My name is spelled Julia. My last name is actually Italian.
Yay.
And it means from Bari, Italy. So that's D as in dog, E as in Edgar, B as in boy, A-R-I.
Great. And tell us about your background and why you're so amazing.
Yes, so I got into the UX industry back in 2000. The dot-com bubble was high and crazy in San Francisco, California, where I am located. Back then, believe it or not, you could pretty much just walk into a place and get a job if you knew anything about computers. And I graduated from school and was super excited to take on the world, and I was very excited and jumped in being an interaction designer. And at that time, that meant coding and designing. And then over the next 15 years, I was a tactical hands-on UX designer and manager. And then around 2015, 2016, I was like, hey, wait a minute. I love doing this so much, but there are a lot of new people getting into the field, and I want to help those people. So I left my corporate job and started teaching full-time at various boot camps. Before that, I had also mentored at various boot camps. So I've been in and out for 6 years of the boot camp industry as instructor, curriculum designer, mentor, and many other functions.
Wow. And I think you told me you've taught at 7 boot camps. Are we allowed to name them?
Yes, sure. So I mentored at Block, which is funny because Block was bought by Thinkful. And then Thinkful was bought by Chegg, and now they're overhauling their program. So they've been hiring instructors and hiring curriculum designers, which I think is good because Block was not a program that I was a big fan of. I was very, very disappointed in their curriculum. I honestly felt like it was written by a UX engineer. Ooh. There was no user research at all. They focused more on front-end coding. You had to code your own portfolio, which is totally unnecessary in the industry. And I just felt like it was a waste of time, and that the UX portion of the program was maybe 35%, and the rest was coding and visual graphic design.
Ouch. Hey, where else have you taught?
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. I was like, wait, what was it about? So I taught at Block and Thinkful when they were separate. And then when Thinkful bought Block, I went back to see if things had improved. They had not, so I didn't last too long there. I've also taught at General Assembly, part-time program, UXDI, which is what they call their immersive program, and weekend workshops as well. I've taught at Springboard. I actually launched their original program. I saw them back in 2014. It was like, hey, you should do a UX design program. They just had software engineering at the time. I was like, hey, UX is awesome. You should do it. And so I helped founders launch that program, and I mentored there for about 2 years. Also done Career Foundry, Growth X Academy, which unfortunately is no longer around.
Which one?
Growth X Academy.
No, never heard of it.
It's no longer around. It was just around 2016 to 2018.
In memory of.
Yes. Interaction Design Foundation, Design Lab.
Someone is asking if you have any thoughts on Design Lab. That question's already here.
So for me, with the state of the industry right now, Design Lab is my top pick.
Oh,
based on what is out there.
Ooh, that's
I'm not saying it's the greatest, but if you had to pick out of all of them,
I would pick landscape of mediocrity.
They do have live critiques that you are required to go to every week. So I think that's a really strong selling point.
Are those done by real experts, or are those done by not knowledgeable teaching assistants?
They are done by mentors, which can be a mix. So I've heard like some are awesome and amazing and you get fantastic feedback, and then others are very not awesome. So you got to sort of find out who your person who's going to lead your critique is first.
I always tell people, look these people up on LinkedIn and look for years of UX jobs. Do not look for front-end development. Do not look for creative director. Do not look for graphic design. Look for real UX work.
I 100% agree. I was also looking at BrainStation the other day because I just like to keep my pulse on what's going on in the industry, and I haven't mentored or taught there. And I noticed their head of UX, their lead UX instructor, actually has no UX background and is a graphic designer.
Yeah, everybody knows how I feel about that.
So I was very disappointed and was like, okay, peace out. Not gonna do that.
Here's a great question. Yeah. I know that we could, I mean, this one's going to go on for a while, but Pasta La Masta, who's our friend Kayleen, says, Julia, did you have control over the curricula in any way?
No, zero control. So I also taught, I forgot, more boot camps, Flatiron Design School. Okay. And when I got there, I was like looking at the curriculum, and I made a 120-page document outlining things that I thought needed to be fixed in the curriculum. And some of them weren't even that hard. They would take you like 10 minutes. And I gave them to the head of UX design there, and nothing, no changes, nothing. Most people have a set program. General Assembly, I struggled there. I'm very opinionated about UX, and none of these
you're in the right place.
None of these places want you to be opinionated. If you question them, they get threatened. Yeah. General Assembly's curriculum looked like it had not changed since they started in 2011. And then they tell you, oh, we'll add in your own stuff. So I was like, okay. But then if it deviates in any way from what they're teaching, then you get a slap on the wrist.
You are burned at the stake as a heretic. Yeah, I went through that with them as well. They were trying to get me to come teach there, but I said, can I adjust the curriculum for what's actually happening in the real world? And they were like, no, please don't. And I had a call with the head of curriculum or whatever it was at General Assembly San Francisco in late 2019, I think it was. And I tried to tell her that the things that they're teaching are just not right and it's not what the real world needs. And she's like, no, no, we're good. We're the best. Everything's great. And I said, okay, well, how about this? You expect everyone to work in an agile environment. Are you telling anybody what agile is? And you could see her furiously writing. And that didn't go anywhere. Tom has a follow-up question to Kayleen's question. Tom says, is there any insight on who actually puts the curriculum together? Surely they have UX experience. If not, I might start charging for my medical boot camp, says Tom, who works in UX.
So what's funny, for example, with General Assembly, the original people, Sarah Duty and I want to say Alex, someone, I can't remember. Yes, they had UX experience. That was 2011. That's 10 years from now. I know that they update the curriculum by people who do not have any UX experience. They're trained instructional designers and work on, like, what are the learning outcomes? What do we want people to learn? But it's not anything of substance from a UX point of view. I can also say, with very sad things, the San Francisco General Assembly is still using the same project briefs when I was there 5 years ago. The exact same projects, and they'll try and grab you in that they work with real clients. You do get a client project. It's the same clients over and over and over again. There's a couple new ones here and there, but I've literally seen 4 General Assembly portfolios with the same clients over a 5-year period.
Yeah, and Lurking Cat says, I took the UX course at General Assembly in San Francisco. I have mixed feelings about my time there. And that makes sense. So, gosh, I have so many questions. You know, one thing that I want to talk about, and I don't know how much insight you have into this, but I've said before that I think that sometimes the quality of instructors at these places is poor, partially because of what they pay. I feel like they pay under market value. I can make more money at a regular job or as a freelancer than I can teaching at even General Assembly. Do you have any insights or opinions as to why these places aren't hiring better instructors?
I definitely would agree that some of it is pay. When I left my corporate job and went to General Assembly, I took a 45% pay cut to go teach full-time at General Assembly.
But quickly, you guys might need to turn this episode into a drinking game of every time I like gasp and cover my mouth. You know, you can drink water if you want, but I think I'm going to be like freaked out at everything Julia says. If you're in the listening only mode, you will not see this. So go watch it on YouTube. Back to you, Julia. Why are we not hiring better instructors?
Well, so 1 is the pay. 2, most places it's a contract job, a 1099 job. So there are no benefits, nothing like that. And then they don't pay well enough for you to cover your own taxes and your own health care.
Right.
So that's not awesome.
Not awesome.
A lot of places want industry experience, which is great, but then they expect you to teach and work full time. So you don't have as much time to devote to your students because you only have a few hours each day or however much you can work out with your work. I can tell you, when I worked at Flatiron, they did hire full-time instructors and the prices were reasonable. But then they realized that their program model was not sufficient and wasn't making money, and so they closed it down. But fun fact, now they're reopening it again. It officially closed in January, and now they're restarting it up.
Which one is
this? Flatiron School.
Oh, okay.
They're headquartered in New York City, but they do have campuses in Seattle, San Francisco, Austin, Chicago, and a few other places, and online.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Lambda shutting theirs down and getting fined by the state of California, but I didn't follow what happened to Lambda after that. So I don't know if they reopened their UX stuff. Were you following
They have
Lambda?
not.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. They have not reopened it. I actually applied for a job there as like a head of UX.
I saw that
This was
job go
before they
by and
launched.
I was like, poor unfortunate soul.
Well, what was funny is I applied for a job there back before they launched the UX program to be the one that launched it. And they made me go through the whole interview process and then said, oh, well, we already hired someone. And I was like, oh, okay, well, thanks for making me go through like 4 rounds of interviews and stuff. And then, of
That's
course, I got to be a
dirty.
stalker on LinkedIn. And the person had no actual UX experience. He had a PhD in educational technology, but not
No. Everyone
no
drink.
no UX experience.
Oh my gosh. And we have a question from M324 who says, I thought about joining Flatiron a while back, but it was 12,000 British pounds. Would that have been worthwhile? I guess that's a good question. For what these things cost, are there any of them that you feel are worthwhile?
I definitely feel like Flatiron and General Assembly are way too expensive. Do not spend your money on that. Way too expensive. Design Lab is around 8,000 US. I feel like it's a little expensive. Career Foundry is a little cheaper, but if you're in the US, so that's another thing is think about where you're located and how competitive you need to be. Career Foundry is not competitive for the United States at all. Like they may work in Europe and they do have a job guarantee, but it is not competitive in the United States. So be really careful. I personally feel like most of them are not worth the price. I recently was working at Interaction Design Foundation, and be careful, they will trick you in that it says it's $2,000, but it's actually $8,000.
What is this bullshit? And by the way,
Yeah.
Kayleen says, I'm just Googling Lambda School and it takes you to a website made by former employees warning people. That's a
Ooh,
bad
I haven't
sign.
seen that. Well,
Oh,
thank you for sharing.
Kayleen is the queen of research. She's great. Chang
Yeah,
says
so
when he did Career Foundry I assume that's 2016, it was less than 2,000 USD. So that's pretty cheap.
yeah, so they have this like intro course that's less. I think it's like $1,000, but it's not intended for you to be a career transitioner to get a full-time job. The full-time job one is $6,500 was the last time I looked.
We have another Julia who says, in my recent experience, we clearly had a fill-in where we were not a priority for the instructor, but after a huge amount of complaining and demanding what I paid for and leading somewhat of a mutiny, we finally got a great instructor halfway through. I've heard that story a lot of times from a lot of people from a lot of different schools, and every time I've said, send me the LinkedIn URL for your great instructor, so far 100% of those, and I don't know about Julia's experience, so far 100% of those were graphic designers. So I'd be very curious who is the great. You don't have to put that person here. We're not looking to call out anybody in particular, but research, everyone, research.
Yeah, that's my key thing when you're looking to go to a boot camp. And I'm actually a big fan of boot camps. I got like I got a couple 4-year degrees, not in UX. That wasn't around really at the time. But stuff moves so fast in the industry. I just feel like it's not worth going to get a master's degree. That's just my personal opinion. So I think boot camps are great. They're just not structured well. And I just cry and cry and cry when I see the curriculum because it could be so much better.
Right. We have a question from Wicked Witch, and thanks for the follow today, Wicked Witch. And it says, what do you think about the new Google UX certificate? I've been following it. Have you? Yes, you have.
Yes, I have. I was actually pinged to help write the curriculum. I couldn't do that because it was a conflict of
Terrible.
interest with
Okay.
where I was working. But it was funny. It's a third-party company, so it's not actually Google,
Yeah, I thought they were
which I
putting them
feel
on
like is
Coursera.
yes. So they're not boot camps. They're courses on Coursera. There are already 8 UX courses on Coursera. The UC San Diego one is actually really good. I've taken it for fun. I'm a dork like that. I have taken a lot of these things for fun. Um, so I'm a little hesitant about it, honestly, because I feel like they're being misleading in that they say it's by Google. It's a third-party company creating the curriculum, and they haven't been hiring any instructors. So who's teaching?
I don't know. Wilson in Twitch is saying, even in my 3-year college UX program, there was an instructor that didn't teach anything and just showed us a bunch of YouTube videos every class. I could joke that's only okay if it's this channel. But no, that is definitely not okay. Shannon wants to know if you think a master's is worth it. And I think that's a great question because sometimes I see master's degrees that cost the same as or less than some of these boot camps. Is it better to get a master's in HCI, UX, psychology?
Yeah, so it really depends on what you want to get out of it. I certainly think it can be useful. Do remember you'll most likely be out of the industry if you're going to your master's full time. And so things like software, which is very low priority for a UX designer, but just those things can happen very fast. The industry changes really quickly, and so you'll be out of the loop. If you're going part time, it's certainly worth it, but it's a lot more theory. So the thing that's funny is master's programs focus a lot on theory, which is good to know, very good to know, but not a lot of hands-on practical projects. Whereas boot camps swung the total other way, and it's very tactical, hands-on. Most of them are project-based with no theory behind it. So you know what to do, but not why. In master's programs, you know why, but not what.
That's great.
So I
That's
sort of
quote of the day.
wish you could do both.
Yeah, right. Put them together. If only someone like Julia could put these things together. Kayleen has a great point, and I think you and I have spoken about this privately, Julia, which is the thing about boot camps is that they prioritize profit over quality education. Where are all of the private post-secondary education bureaus and commissions to hold these boot camps accountable and shut them down? I've got a perspectives video on the YouTube channel where I remind people that the state you live in is supposed to be overseeing some of these boot camps and is kind of like, you don't complain to the attorney general, you complain to the private post-secondary education commission. Have you been keeping track of any of what any of those commissions are doing about any of these boot camps?
A little bit. I've been trying to get more into it, but I know, for example, General Assembly and Flatiron School have been approved. They have a huge team of lawyers and went state by state, spent all this money to get approved. So those two have been approved. The other ones, as far as I know, have not been approved. And you can operate for 2 years without approval, according to law. But then after then, you do need to get approval. It's 1 to 2 year long process. But I think what happens, and I totally agree, we need an overarching body to take these schools into account, is they just sort of go under the radar until something like Lambda School happens and gets blown up in the media. And unless no one's complaining enough or loud enough, then they just skate on by. If people are familiar with Tradecraft, they were a boot camp in San Francisco on campus, and they were fined $75,000,
So was
and they were told
Lambda.
they had a year to fix the problem. They didn't fix the problem, and then they were shut down. So they no longer exist in San Francisco or at all. The whole company has shut down.
Yeah, not
But
surprised.
that was a 3-year process to shut them down. So,
That's wild.
yeah.
We have a great comment here from Virgifus. I know there's got to be a better way to pronounce that, but I always forget if your name is Virginia or something else. Hi, regardless of the course instructors having actual UX work experience, you also have to be lucky enough to get one that is motivated to teach you a repetitive curriculum at a job that is boring to them, which is obvious by their constant eye rolling and zero constructive feedback. Well, you've made that sound good. Let's talk for a moment about the zero constructive feedback. One common thread that I hear across many boot camps, whether it's been Bootcamp X or online Bootcamp Y or whatever it is, time after time I hear, my mentor, my advisor, my tutor, my instructor, they just look at my work and they say, yeah, that's good enough. I don't really get constructive feedback. Why do you think more boot camps aren't giving people the tough love and the real feedback they need to do better work?
So you haven't been in my class then, because I certainly do. I have also failed many students.
Yay!
Couple reasons. The pay, the tutors and stuff get like $20 an hour. So there's just not a lot of motivation there. Also, not a single one of these boot camps that I am aware of offer any training on how to be a mentor or coach or advisor at all. They just assume you do UX, so you know how to do this. But giving feedback is a skill, and it's not something we're taught in school by default. And so people don't know how to do it. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, and Julia wrote, please tell me my work is crap so I can improve. Yes, Virgifus, but basically all feedback I received was, well done. I asked for areas of improvement and I sensed they just didn't have the time or the script for that.
So there are scripts, actually. Career Foundry and Thinkful, literally their graders or tutors have scripts that tell you what to write.
I'm gonna cry.
Literally these huge documents. If you see this, put this comment. If you see this, put this comment. It's horrifying. Like I could not take it. I was like, I'm out. I can't. This isn't how
Thank
UX
you very
works.
much, Mr. Roboto. Yeah. We've got Ali Edin on LinkedIn who says, Julia has no problem giving constructive feedback. I can attest to that. All right. Thank you, Ali.
Ali was one of my mentees.
Excellent. Wicked Witch said, oh, where did this comment go? Wicked Witch signed up for the info session for Google UX, and someone else said the Google UX videos are claiming that their employees are doing the program or teaching it.
They could be. I'm certainly, when I tried to reach out to find out more information, that's what I was told. But then, as I told you, I was pinged to help write, and it was a third-party program writing the curriculum. So maybe the employees are actually going to teach the third-party program, but Coursera is recorded videos and then content that you read, and then you do assignments, and then you post them. So the important thing when you're doing any kind of boot camp, and this is why I picked Design Lab as the most, is getting live constructive criticism or some kind of constructive criticism. You will not get that with the Google UX cert. There is no actual
none of them.
instructor feedback.
There's pretty much none of them. Just want to take a moment to remind everybody who's joining us that please follow us on Twitch, and please also subscribe on Twitch. It's about $5 a month. I get half of that, but I'm still happy to get half of that. If we get 5 more subscribers, we unlock cool emojis that I can design. So I've already made a Don Norman emoji, and I'm thinking about a Larry Marine one. So everybody, please subscribe over on Twitch. YouTube has all the archives. I'll be focused more on Twitch. Also, if you're here for the upcoming micro lessons I'm going to be doing, some of them will be on Twitch and won't be on YouTube. So make sure you're at least following on Twitch. And if you want to join our low ego action hero Slack community, you can. It's at deltacx.link/join Slack. And so let's see. Someone asks what you think about Thinkful, but I feel like we've gone gone over that. Charlene says, I did not enjoy Coursera. Austin says, my future coworker, Larry Marine. Can you see how excited I am? You should be. He's awesome. We've got a couple of comments. Let me put these up. I'm trying to find them. All right. So Sarah says, this is my 2 cents, but my mentor certainly gave me constructive feedback. He's a principal designer at Microsoft and certainly knew his stuff. I did Springboard. Was that Nick? We had Nick on the show as a guest. We're not saying every mentor is terrible. There are a few good ones out there. No, not me. Okay, Nick, are you I Love UX Design? I'm still piecing everybody's names to who they are. Okay, Sarah says no,
like
Silvio.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, sorry. Sarah says it was Silvio. So, grazie, Silvio.
Well, I've heard good things about Silvio. So it's just like anything else when you're looking for instructors, when you're looking who your mentor is, look at their background, look at their portfolios, look at their work. It's really key.
Yes. Always, please research more. I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to who said, I'm not happy at my boot camp. And I said, well, what did you research? How did you know that you wanted to pick it? And they said, no, I didn't really look into it. They just they gave me an ISA. Let's talk for a moment. Wicked Witch, I see your question, but let's talk about ISAs for a moment. ISAs, evil or super evil? Julia, over to you.
I understand the appeal of them, but I do feel the chance of you actually getting a positive outcome is very, very slim. Also related, beware, a lot of these places say job guarantee. It's actually technically illegal in the United States to say job guarantee. And if you read the super tiny print, there's all of these caveats on loopholes. And I know one person out of the many people I've taught and mentored who's ever gotten their money back. One person out of thousands. So be very careful about that. ISA, I do feel like could be a bit of a trap. Just be very careful.
Yeah, I agree. And for those who aren't familiar, the ISA is where you don't have to pay for your boot camp up front or take out a loan. It's an income share agreement. And that means after you graduate, when you're working, they start taking a percentage of your salary, but then they also take more than the boot camp costs. It's like in order for you to have this wonderful deferred payment, they sometimes take 1.5x or even 2x what the boot camp costs. And I spoke to an ISA company and I learned they don't have to do that. You could take 1%, 1x, you could take 1.1x, but they take 1.5x or 2x. So please be careful there. So M324 says, are there any courses or materials you do recommend instead of boot camps?
I think there are a lot of good things online. The key thing is, I don't know how, I think each person has their own specific way of how they like to learn, is get a mentor of some kind to give you feedback on your work, constructive feedback. That's one reason I like ADP list. There's so many people available, and it doesn't have to be the same one repeatedly, but if you can just get regular feedback on your work, whatever path you take, just please, there's no way to become a good UX designer without getting constructive feedback on your work.
Yes. Virgifus says, I did read the small print when I was doing research on courses. I strongly recommend to read for everyone to read the fine print. It was an eye-opening. And I want to mention quickly, for those of you who are subscribed to the Delta CX YouTube channel, I put up a perspectives video recently. So look for the playlist that says perspectives. And then I have a 10-minute video where I actually read through the part of Thinkful's terms and conditions about how you can get your money back if you cannot find a job within 6 months after your graduation. And there are so many sneaky, wacky terms and conditions. I think it would be very surprising to people. For example, Julia, I don't know what your experience has been, but it sounds like many boot camps tell people that after you graduate, you could become a freelancer, and that by picking up freelance work, you're going to make money and have work experience and practice. Of course, they don't tell you most people don't want to hire someone who's still guessing and practicing when it comes to freelancing. But in Thinkful's terms and conditions, it actually said if you start your own business or work as a freelancer, your post-graduation job guarantee is nullified. But I don't know about Thinkful, but here they are telling you go be a freelancer. Is that something you heard at boot camps, to tell people just go be a freelancer?
Oh, all the time. That's what General Assembly does a lot, which, so General Assembly has this like outcomes report on how well their students do after graduation. And I was really confused by it because it says something like they have a 96 or 97% placement rate within 6 months of graduation. And I was like, just from the people I've taught there's not that rate. So how is that even possible? And so, yeah, it was a lot of that freelance counts, contracting counts.
Going back to your old job
exchange
counts.
of money. Yeah, exactly.
Going back to your old job counts, being hired by General Assembly counts. Julia,
Yep.
do you think that a lot of these boot camps are hiring their recent graduates because they want to make their post-graduation employment numbers look good?
I do. So I was recently working at the Interaction Design Foundation, and I ruffled some feathers in the sense that I refused to hire anyone who'd been through our boot camps. It was just a flat policy because I think it does come across as like, well, you need a job, so we're going to hire you, and that'll make our quota. It's just really, remember, the business cares about making money, not about you, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wicked Witch, you asked a question before and we forgot to get to it. So let me put it up now. And this was, what's your advice for a longtime digital marketer and graphic designer / web designer to move into UX? I've been studying on my own, watching videos and doing the regular IDF classes, and I did Sarah Duty's portfolio class. And there are other people asking similar questions in the chat room. What do you think is the best path to entering UX?
That's a really good question. I've been struggling with this a lot. So when I teach, I sort of become like your mentor for life. Like I still know most of my students. You all saw Allie comment. I'm still in touch with 90% of my students, mentees over the years. And I don't know if I'm different, but I'm just like really care about like them succeeding in their career. Oh, thank you so much, Anita. And so I don't think there's one right way. The key things are getting feedback on your work and having a consistent structure of what you're learning. I do worry when you self-study, you don't know what you don't know. So it's good to have some kind of program to follow, but there are plenty of those available.
So who is giving good feedback on work other than hire Julia as your coach or hire me as your coach? Is there a program out there that's giving really good individualized feedback the way you and I would hope?
Unfortunately, not that I'm aware of. I'd love to find something like that. I would like to start something like that.
Would you please?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah, so I would really say, like, pick your path. If you know you're just a procrastinator and you're not good at like structure, do a boot camp, but do a cheaper one. Study a lot besides what they give you at the boot camp. It was really funny. I'm very active on UX mastery forums, and a student was nice enough to come back and say like they did Design Lab and Career Foundry, and they said Career Foundry is very German and like step-by-step process and do not deviate from the process, and Design Lab was more American, where they want you to like be more innovative, stuff like that. So I thought that was a really cute comment that she gave. So if you need a lot of structure and like step-by-step, Career Foundry can be a great option. They do reuse a lot of projects, so that's not great. Yeah, just you can self-study, but just make sure you have a path and a set amount of time and get regular feedback. I know there are lots of other great people out there. I love ADP list. I'm on there, but I don't want to say like they're the best, because I can tell you as a mentor,
individual.
the requirement is you put your name and email in LinkedIn, and then you are a mentor. That is the only requirement to be on ADP list.
He just rejected Joel Barr. I don't know if you know Joel Barr. Yeah, he was posting to LinkedIn. The ADP list rejected him.
That surprises me.
Exactly. So I tell people, even really ADP list, please still check people on LinkedIn. I saw some people on ADP list who had 6 months of UX work experience.
Yes.
Maybe they can talk to you about finding your first job, but they shouldn't be reviewing your work. Let's get to some other questions. The time is flying, and thank you so much, Julia. Anita, did I put up Anita? Okay, good. Anita says, hi, Debbie and Julia. My question to Julia is, in your opinion, after going through bootcamp curriculums, what would you say are the most important skills to focus on for recent grads? And I know Anita did do a bootcamp.
Excellent question, Anita. So one thing that I find very interesting is bootcamps are very like, do this, do that, this like step-by-step process. A key thing I would say, and this is going to sound all vague and hand wavy, but storytelling, the amount of times I see portfolios from bootcamp grads that have my design process and then discover, define, ideate.
Empathize.
Like as a hiring manager, I know that. Like
I say the same thing. Are you telling you or are you telling me?
Right, exactly. And I'm like, I want to know how you made decisions and why you did what you did. Not that to me looks like you followed a bootcamp program and you just did what they told you to do. Right. So when I say storytelling, I want to know like, why did you do this? And don't put everything you did in your portfolio. It's like, it's not an archive of your work. It's you selling yourself to the company or hiring manager. Your portfolio is a marketing asset. That is to say, I know what I'm doing, hire me. So make it sound good.
And let's have another angle of this. Nick says, but engineering leads and product managers that conduct interviews don't know this process. Yes, but in my portfolio, I don't start out by going, I follow the user-centered design process. Let me tell you about all the phases of the user-centered design process. Research, content, information architecture. I just start telling you the story of what I did, and it may have those phases. I don't need the overview or the model. You don't have to put up double diamond. Just tell me, I started with research. I started with discover. I started with whatever you're calling it, and just tell us what it is. Just tell us what you did.
And why you did it. I really want to know why. But back to
how.
The question. Storytelling.
Yes.
Definitely practice presenting. So like to another person's question, like when I was at Flatiron, I was a little bit of the black sheep, not following the way things should be, writing my own extra curriculum. But I made people present their work once or twice a week. Like you had to get up in front of class and present what you were working on.
It's good practice.
That's key. So if you can get like a friend, someone on Debbie's Slack group to just practice presenting your work and articulating your design decisions is really, really key.
Yeah, and Anita says a mentor on ADP list said, "Put in your 5-step model because people need to know how I thought." Well, only if you're using a 5-step model. If you're using design thinking, then you can put in design thinking, but I will then close your portfolio because I don't believe in design thinking. I'm looking for quality work. So you'll appeal to the design thinkers, but you might not appeal to the old school versions of us who go for the more human-centered design, user-centered design. Julie, another thing that I tell people is, in your portfolio, don't just say, "I did a thing." That sounds like you played with building blocks. When people are reviewing your portfolio, they really want to see the science and technique, the how of what you did. Do you have any advice on what people could put in their portfolio to better explain some of what they did?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not showing me everything is a key. Like, that's one thing Career Foundry has all their students do. Put every possible artifact you did in your portfolio case study, and it just, like, is
It's
not
very long.
interesting. Yeah, it's very long. So say, like, so you did some personas, great. Why? How did they affect your design decisions? Why did you do personas? Because your teacher told you, the curriculum told you? No. What did you learn? Why? Like, if you didn't actually get anything, leave them out of your case study. If they were just like something you handed in, then don't put them in there. I really want to know why. Like, tell me why. And to someone who said earlier, like, engineering and PMs don't know the process, which is true. And Debbie said, tell the story, but tell me why you did that. That's way more interesting to those engineers and PMs than like you followed some step-by-step process.
Yeah, I remember seeing a portfolio where this was someone doing a bachelor's degree in UX, and they wrote in the portfolio, "I'm a leader, so I convinced my team to make an empathy map." And my thought was, no and no. That looks accidentally arrogant to announce yourself as a leader. And why'd you do an empathy map? What would have happened if you didn't do it? The why is important. Anita's got a follow-up question that references an old episode here on the show. Anita says, she remembers in my review of the best portfolio I've ever seen, which was episode 18 in the live podcasts playlist, that person had links that you could click that explained in further detail if you wanted to see it. So there was a guy who had his case study, and if you wanted to know more, he had like accordions, and sometimes he had a light box, but he didn't send you off of the page. He didn't tell you to watch a video or see this Google Doc. Everything was inline and either opened in an accordion or came up in a light box. How do you feel about trying to have a shorter portfolio for quick review and then putting some details under accordions and light boxes?
Yeah, I think that's great. I can tell you when I was working at IXDF, I was hiring instructors and coaches. I would spend 30 seconds looking at their portfolios. I know that sounds crazy.
No,
but
I heard
just
90.
skimmed down.
Yeah.
And I was looking at headlines and deliverables. And then if those were interesting, then I'd go back and read the content. Another thing, I think I just commented on this on LinkedIn recently, titles and then blocks of text are like someone talking to you in a monotone. Please make my life interesting. I posted some good examples. I want to know visual hierarchy. Like, to your point earlier, Debbie, someone's like, I know design, I know visual hierarchy, but then you're not showing it to me in your portfolio. So then I'm like, do you?
Right.
Like,
see our micro lesson in the micro lessons playlist on visual hierarchy.
I'm a big fan of visual hierarchy.
Me too. Thank you for that. I also want to talk to you about well, first of all, do you agree with me that it seems like boot camps have little or no standards for entering the program or graduating? And if so, why? Why don't they have standards? Why does everyone graduate?
So I do feel like Design Lab does better and that it's harder to get in, but yeah, then, and it's harder to get out. Like they don't fail people, but you keep repeating until you get it right.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, no, I see that, like, and a lot of boot camps have these like fake get in kind of thing where it's like you have to do a design challenge. I'm like, why are you asking people who know nothing about UX design to do a design challenge to get into a boot camp to learn about UX design? Like, it makes no sense. I think they're scared to fail people because it'll make them look bad, honestly,
It'll lower the NPS.
which is total. Oh, I
Yeah.
almost cursed.
I
Total
already said
BS.
it. I already said it. Cursing aloud.
Yeah, they just want, it's money. This is a business. Like, it's sad, and I hate saying that, but boot camps are a business. They're not about you. They're about the company making money.
Wilson says General Assembly accepted a student that wasn't tech savvy and graduated.
Yeah, so I actually had a student that I had to teach at General Assembly that was autistic, like pretty far on the spectrum.
Because quickly,
You know,
we just did UX and autism a couple of weeks ago, and we believe that autistic people can do UX, but obviously each person's going to be different.
so this person had some serious behavioral issues and could not work in a team. And so I was, seeing these behaviors and like putting them up the chain and like this person shouldn't be in this class. And it wasn't until something sexual happened that they were asked to leave the class.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So they let things slide that you would not believe just to make their numbers and their money.
I have to do this again so everyone will drink. Ah, yes, that's how I feel. I mean, the information from you has been so fantastic, but I also feel like you are reading from the inside of my head because these are all things that I've been saying. Remember, we've only got about 8 minutes left with Julia, so please ask the questions that you have. We're so lucky to have her here, and so please, everybody, get all your questions out. The chat room is full of a lot of commentary, which I've put up on the screen here and there, but if anybody has questions, please ask them. But I know that there's people ask me all the time, what should I do instead of a boot camp? And I'm like, everything sucks.
Yeah. I know, I sort of feel that way too. I mean, I usually turn people towards Design Lab because it's not as bad. They make more of an effort with their mentors, but not, you can still get a crappy mentor. That's one thing I would say. Whatever boot camp, if you do decide to do one and you get a mentor who's not giving you good feedback or just says well done or whatever, ask for a new one. You're paying a ton of money. Get what you paid for. Push back. If you don't want to do a boot camp, which I totally think is fine, there are a couple really good courses on Udemy by David Travis and Joe Natoli. There's actually also some good courses on Udacity. I don't recommend taking like their UX nano degree because it was a little light on actual UX work, but just taking individual courses and then getting feedback from a mentor or multiple mentors is key. I think I have on my blog, but I will double check, like just the standard process of what you should learn on my blog. So if you're like, I want to learn UX, I don't want to do a boot camp, where
That
do
is
I
the next
start?
question. Yeah. So the next question was, what does the ideal curriculum look like? And so you're saying if that's on your blog, what's your website so everybody can jump over there?
Yeah, and if I don't have it, please message me and complain. My website is just juliad.com. On the blog part, I write a lot about education. I write a lot about, getting a job in UX and curriculum and things like that. I think the key thing, so like, for example, download those curriculums when you see them on the boot camp and you want detail. Like, I was so frustrated when I was at Flatiron and you download the curriculum and it was just a list of buzzwords. It was
Ooh.
just like software buzzword soft skill buzzword like design thinking, user research, make sure to ask as many questions as possible before you start. Ask for details. I was shocked how many boot camps don't actually do any user research at all. You should be interviewing a minimum of 8 people when you do user research.
Yeah. Y'all heard I say that? And we are going to do 7 on my fake upcoming micro lessons, but if we can get an 8th person, that'd be great. We've got lots of questions still coming in. I feel like we've kind of covered this, but any thoughts on IDF? I tend to feel hit and miss about their courses. Let's talk about their courses. Would you recommend their courses to people?
So this is tough, and the reason I'll say that is I was recently working there. I've recently left. I feel like their courses, as Debbie could say, is hit or miss, and so they are launching boot camps as well, but I want to tell you that they're not actually boot camps. It's self-study courses with an instructor. So you're going to get their courses without an instructor, or you can pay extra and get their courses with an instructor. So it really depends on the course. The other thing that, I don't know, I could go on and on, but I'm trying not to be like that negative Nancy. They're very, very heavy on theory, and so you don't get a lot of hands-on tactical work in their courses. And also a lot of their instructors are old white men, which I'm not a fan of. But there can be some good stuff on there.
Yep, I hear you. Let's see. We had Nick kind of disagreeing with you here. And Nick said your information might be out of date. User research is a foundational aspect of some boot camps. Now, my response to that would be user research. Many boot camps claim that user research is a foundational aspect of their curriculum. But when I've seen what people actually learned, I would say they're lying. But what would you say, Julia, in response to user research is a foundational aspect of some boot camps? Maybe he means researching with the potential researching what people need to learn. Nick, did you mean that? I haven't heard of any of them doing that. I don't think we mean the students doing research. What do you mean no actual research? Nick, what is actual research? Do you mean the school researching with industry leaders and hiring managers to see what students need to learn so they can make the right curriculum? I think that's what Julia was talking about before. Or do you mean students doing research? I don't think either of them are happening.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I mean, I certainly do that. Every year I interview around 20 hiring managers just for my own edification to know like what should people be learning and teaching. And I've presented that back to higher ups and gotten like, that's great. We don't care. Why'd you waste your time on doing this? Like we have our instructional designers.
Right. No, Nick says students conducting user research as part of their program. I've seen everyone does that, but they usually do it badly. What would you say, Julia? What would you say in general or specifically about the specifically UX or user research curricula in boot camps? Weak, strong, otherwise?
As far as I can tell, it's very light and it's done badly, as Debbie said. When I taught at General Assembly, it was interview your friends and family on this topic. When I was at Block, which this true could be out of date, it was do a survey, not even talk to actual
I've seen a lot
people.
of surveys. Yep.
When I was at Academy of Art University, which is a local university here in San Francisco, California, it was read people's LinkedIn profiles and make a persona. Design Lab, I think, has you do like 4 people you interview. Yeah, so some they do 4, but you should be doing 8, a minimum of 8.
My favorite, if I can jump in quickly, my favorite story, one of my favorite stories to tell about weird portfolios I saw was someone who interviewed 2 people and made 3 personas. Back to you,
How is
Julia.
that possible? I don't
Exactly.
even know how that's possible. The other thing along that user research is I don't feel like at any boot camp I've been, students have been told how to ask good interview questions. The amount of leading questions and bias questions and double barrel questions I see are horrible.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. How to take the information from your interview and create a persona. I've never, ever, ever seen that in any boot camp. It's just like, okay, you have these things, now make a persona. And it's like no idea of how to do that. And so it's done wrong a lot. The amount of templates I see with
Oh, yeah.
graphs for motivations. How do you have a graph of a motivation? That makes no logical sense.
I love the persona that says, like, this person is 70% kind and I guess 30% a dick. And I'm like, and how are you going to design differently for their kindness or dickiness? Like, what does that mean?
Exactly, exactly. So I guess the evidence shows that not a single boot camp portfolio that I've looked at shows that anyone's done actual good user research.
Right. So, I always joke, everybody, if you're old as I am, you remember the old Saturday Night Live sketch that said, Toonsis the cat can drive, just not very well. And there was a cat who would drive people over a cliff. And I feel the same way about bootcamp research. Many boot camps say they're teaching UX or user research, but it doesn't seem to be taught very well.
Yep, I 100% agree with that.
Why, thank you. Everybody in Twitch, if you can help me out a little bit, I don't know who some of you are. So, Vitamin Panda, who are you? UX Goodness, who are you? I'll try to remember who everybody is. Let's see. Vitamin Panda wants to know if my upcoming micro lessons on observational research will make it as far as personas. I hope so. I have only 7 people signed up to be fake research subjects now. That's a little bit lighter than, for personas, I love to talk to 20 people or more. So it's a little bit light. But if we feel like we can get at least one quality persona out of it, we'll try. But I don't want to push it and show people work done badly. So there you go. Nicole's got a nice question. I find it difficult to reach out to strangers. How do you recommend to go beyond friends and family for those interviews?
So this I find very interesting, which seems like 101 to me. You want to write a screener survey, and you do this by first researching your domain and your target audience, which is another thing they don't teach you in most boot camps. I'm like, where do you come up with this stuff? So you want to do a screener survey, which has criteria of the people you want to interview. So one boot camp has making a flower shop as one of their projects.
As we all do.
I don't even get into projects. I have a whole rant on that. But anyway, so they tell you, you're going to make a flower shop. So then you should go out and create a screener survey on people who like to buy flowers from local flower shops. And you can post that Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit. There's actually a website called Survey Switch where you post a survey and then do someone else's survey, Slack groups, forums. I actually had a student once, I was so impressed. She was doing work for people who ride motorcycles. And she went out and put those old-fashioned things where you have your name and number, then you tear off the sheet on all the motorcycles she saw in a 3-block radius to get people to interview. You've got to be creative. And it's really important to do. So I hope that answers your question.
It's great. This is not a boot camp, but we've had Michelle Ronson on our show a few times, and she's got curiositytank.com, not sponsored, hashtag not sponsored, where she seems to do some in-depth user research courses, and I've heard good things about them. Have you checked out what she's doing at all?
Yes. Yeah, her stuff is really good. I've heard nothing but positive reviews. I was
You
actually
said something positive.
so I actually, what I will do sometimes is I will sign up for a lot of these courses and take them myself. I've taken about 4 Coursera UX courses. I've done the Udacity one. I've taken some Udemy courses, even though I know this stuff, but I want to know,
Right,
what are other people teaching? Is it good? Can I recommend it? I want to come
right.
from a place of knowledge. Um,
I did the same thing.
Nothing's perfect.
I looked at Susan Weinshank's courses
Mhm.
and I felt like they were highly academic, but I didn't feel like they were actionable on the level of most of the types of students we get here in like the chat room. Did you try Susan Weinshank's courses like brain and
I was actually
behavior?
one of her first students for when she
Okay.
put them on her course, and I did the extra. So what you can do is, so I took one of her, it was before she had like less than she does now. I took them while I was working, and then I paid extra for her to mentor me for 6 weeks
Mm,
on an actual project while I was learning the videos.
excellent
So
choice.
that was really good, but they're not for people with no experience. I definitely recommend you
Right.
have some experience under your belt.
Yeah, that was why I was hesitant to recommend them because while the information is good and reliable, it seemed very academic and I wasn't sure how to tell people now apply that. And
Yeah, so she
that
doesn't
was
have that.
that
Yeah.
was where it fell apart for me. We are running late. Thank you for staying late. If you have any last questions, everybody, get them in right now. While we wait for the last questions, Julia, how can we find you, follow you, stalk you, connect with you, or get mentoring or coaching from you?
Yeah, I'm a big fan on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn way more than I should be. I'm not a big user of Twitter or Facebook or anything like that. I guess LinkedIn is like the place I hang out the most. Um,
Okay.
yeah, it's just Julia DeBari.
Stalk Julia there. And people are saying, I'm following her, I'm stalking her. So you've got your fan club is here. And do you do free mentoring or paid mentoring or coaching? Do you offer that to people who might be interested in working with you?
I do offer free, which now I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
It's okay to
Just because
charge.
I forget about that because I just want to help people, and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to like be paid for my time. Yeah, I do. I'm pretty full right now, but I am wrapping up some people, so I'll probably have some time in April.
Cool.
But yeah, just reach out, and if you reach out on LinkedIn to connect, please include a note because I ignore all requests that don't include a note. Um,
Always a good policy. Send people a note. Say, I heard you on Debbie's show and I'm stalking you. Say something like that, something friendly. Um,
yeah. Any last
oh,
questions and
no, people are
answer?
saying you're so inspiring. I'm following you. I sent you an invitation, blah, blah, blah. No, Wilson, your invitation's probably pending because she's here now. Oh no, someone said I sent you a request without a note. Okay, that's Virginia. So please accept Wilson with the volleyball next to his name
Okay.
and Virginia. Virginia, I'm trying to remember your last name. It's like Fuller or Fulter or something like that. But this is just from memory, guys. I'm doing the best I can. Um, uh, Flavio says, I've just added you with a note mentioning Debbie. Virginia says Fuster. Okay, that's why you're
Okay.
Virgifus. So we've got people coming your way, and hopefully more people listening to this later in the archives and on the audio only podcasts. So I guess I'll wrap this up. But Julia, it sure sounds like we could have you back again to talk about more of these things and take questions. So maybe into the spring, especially if you cook up something new that you want to tell everybody about, we would love to have you back. And I think you have a great target audience here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Debbie. It was great to be on. And do remember, these are all my personal opinions, and I have a very high bar for quality. So just take everything with a grain of salt.
Yes, yes, my personal opinions as well. And so thank you again. I'm going to play us out of here, but just a reminder, everybody join tomorrow for Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Thanks and bye. Delta CX, available for CX and UX consulting, projects, and training. Contact us for a free consultation.